Hello, folks. How's it going? This is Evgeny from Day One Careers. Hopefully, you guys can all hear me and you can all see me. Can you just let me know in the comments in the chat box that the sound works well and that you can see my mug on the screen? So Gigi is taking the day off today, so it's going to be just us, and I'm going to spend the whole hour answering all your questions about Amazon interviews, the behavioral side of them. So first thing first, let me just give you a quick intro in case you guys didn't know who I am, although I think it's probably impossible, but still. So you've discovered this show through our YouTube channel and hopefully our website. So we try to run these every week, unless we're on holiday or unless, like last week, daylight saving time in the US did not gel with the UK. And what we do here is we answer any of your questions related to behavioral interviews at Amazon. We are both, Gigi and I, we're both ex-Amazonians. We used to be senior marketers at Amazon. We used to be hiring managers, interviewers, amongst all other things. And both Gigi and I, in different ways, decided at some point in time to coach and offer self-study preparatory resources for Amazon behavioral interviews. So Gigi discovered while she was interviewing candidates that some candidates were very, very similar to each other in some of the rubbish that they tried to pull off in interviews. And then when Gigi asked them, where did you learn this? They were all referring to various YouTube channels that are still posting this rubbish. I'm not going to name any names, but you know who they are. And so she started her Amazon interview with YouTube channel while still at Amazon, just to dispel some myths and to almost like to prevent people from preparing badly for interviews. And then when she left Amazon, she made it her full-time gig. And then one person who worked with Gigi also worked with me, and she said, "Hey, why don't you guys meet up with Evgeny, because you guys are both pretty credible in this industry." And so we met up and we merged our business in February 2022. My journey was similar to Gigi's. I was also hiring manager and an interviewer. I was not a bar raiser, but what I started doing is, at some point in time, I thought, you know what? If I have a candidate whose functional profile is really good, but I can see during the first phone screen one, that the candidate isn't particularly doing well on the behavioral side of the interviews, what I would do is, rather than rejecting the candidate, I would give the candidate some coaching and see how they perform in phone screen 2. And lo and behold, if turns out if you give motivated candidates proper interview coaching, they tend to do better. So in my last 2 months at Amazon, I started coaching. Then when I left and joined Apple, I, in the early mornings, still during COVID, developed my courses. And then shortly after COVID, when we merged with Gigi, we kind of merged all our content together. And so from Feb 2022, we relaunched under the brand that I created, Day One Careers, and now it's ours, and that's where we all are. So the way that we run this show, folks, is as I can see, you're already taking advantage of the chat box. So put all your questions about Amazon interviews into the chat box, and I'm going to bring them up on the screen one after another, and hopefully we're going to have enough time to answer all of them. Keep those questions going, guys. We're going to start from the very beginning. Now, while you are thinking about what questions to ask, so just a reminder, and this is just to make sure that I can add as much value as possible to your questions. So obviously, Amazon is a massive organization, and they have literally thousands of various different job families. And no single individual, myself included, can be an expert in the functional side of interviewing for all of these functional roles. So, for example, if you have an interview for a pre-construction manager, um, in the the fulfillment center pre-construction manager or a data center pre-construction manager. Unfortunately, if you have any questions on the functional side of that job, I won't be able to help you much because I just simply do not know. I have no idea how to how to build a data center, but the behavioral side of all of the interviews at Amazon is pretty uniform. So on the behavioral side, I can answer hopefully most of your questions. Now, if you have something very generic, like I've got an interview next week, do you have any tips? I will have to refer you to our YouTube channel because this is where, like, for all the foundational tips, like some of the most commonly asked questions, like the biggest tips that you can think, you just need to go there, and there's just so much content in there. I won't be able to cover it here. But if you've got something in between, something a bit more specific and related to your specific situation, then I should be able to help you. So with that in mind, I'm just going to start from the top, folks. And we're going to start here with Daniel. So, right. So Daniel here says, I've been within networking field for more than 30 years. I was invited by an Amazon recruiter to apply for the position of the ADC space and as a network development engineer within the classified environment, which I possess the necessary clearance. Okay, my question is, I don't have data points to use when I answer the question. Tell me about a time. Right. So I guess your question is, what do you do if you don't have any data points? So that's a very frequent question about data points. And the answer is, if you don't have data points, you need to get some. I know this isn't particularly helpful, and I will give you some kind of some hacks that you can employ. But fundamentally, Amazon is a truth-seeking organization. When you join Amazon, you will get exactly what I'm talking about. They are obsessed with data. They measure everything, and if they don't measure something, they establish pilots, and during those pilots and experiments, they measure. So if you interview with Amazon and you don't share any data points around the size of the problem or the kind of the problem that you were trying to solve and the sort of results that you achieved, it will be extremely difficult for your interviewer to grade your response in such a way that it truly reflects the impact that you brought to your team or to your organization, to your customers or employees during that story. So fundamentally, you need to have data. Now, what counts as data? Facts, any sort of fact typically counts as data. Now, numbers and numerical data, these are also facts, right? So, for example, sometimes you may be in a situation where your objective is to launch project X by deadline Y. That's data, right? In terms of objectives, right? And then in your results, you can share, and as a result of all my actions, I've launched project X by deadline Y. So you link them together and you have data-driven response. Now, if you have anything to say about how, the great things that happened to your team or your organization in a factual way as a result of your contributions, even better. So facts, any sort of facts is data, and you really need to, unfortunately, you do need to go back to memory lane and try to recall those. If, for example, you don't have some sort of numerical values or numerical data for anything, but let's say you presented something to someone senior and that someone senior approved it, right? Which happens sometimes in project work or in consulting, where you work on a project, or on some sort of a recommendation, then you present it to senior leadership, and then senior leadership accepts it and approves it. Then that's, there you go, that's your data, and that's how you demonstrate impact. So that's another hack that you can employ. You can also estimate. You can say, look, while the specific outcomes were, I wasn't there, or I can't share them, but I can estimate it. Now, if the reason why you can't share data is purely just due to the confidentiality of your projects and the confidentiality of your outcomes, so ask yourself, what is it that you physically cannot share? Is it the absolute numbers that you cannot share? Can you share percentage increases or decreases, or would those be also be also confidential? So because there's many ways that you can obfuscate data, but obviously you need to be comfortable and ultimately responsible for obfuscating the data, and make sure that you don't obviously break anything that that you've signed. But what I've seen previously with candidates whose projects were confidential, for example, they would say, while the actual numbers or the actual outcomes are confidential, where I can tell you that I increased something by X%. So if you think you can share percentages, for example, instead of absolute numbers, then that's fine too. You can do that. What you can also do is, if you must, you can just say X. You can just replace the data with a variable X, and you can say, look, I increased something by X%, leading to something. And then you have to mention that, due to the fact that this is the work is classified, I'm unable to share the precise absolute numbers. So do your best to try and see how you can get out of this situation by employing these hacks, percentages, estimates, and other hacks that I've mentioned. Obviously, you need to be the one who knows what you can share, what you cannot share. So these are just examples of some things that other people have used. Hopefully, I've managed to inspire your creativity and thinking about how to get around these things. Okay, let's keep going. So this one is from Upal. I've given my first round of the loop interview. Next 4 rounds are scheduled this week. Okay, during my interview, there were 4 questions. I tried to give the answers in the star format. What I found, that there was very few follow-up questions, meaning out of 4, only 1 question that there was a follow-up. I'm not sure whether I delivered the right way or not, or my examples were not that impactful. Can you please suggest anything? Look, your guess is as good as mine. The thing is, the follow-ups that you're getting, how many of them are getting, the types of follow-ups you're getting, all depends on the interviewer. Like every single interviewer that trains how to interview, when they are at Amazon, they're being trained to get as much evidence from the candidate as it relates to the behaviors that align with the leadership principle that they're testing you on. How interviewers wrestle with that requirement is incredibly individual. Some interviewers take it to heart, and they follow up until kingdom come, until they get everything out of you as much as they can. Some interviewers don't bother. They just they just write your story down, and they're going to grade your response based on the evidence that they received. It's not a reflection on what you've shared or what you have not shared. It's literally just a reflection on the interviewer. It's impossible to predict. We've had candidates who had loops where no one was following up on anything. They got jobs. We also had candidates who went through loops where there was a lot of grilling and they didn't get jobs. So it literally is up there in the air. To be honest, as far as your further steps are concerned, my recommendation is just focus on the factors that you can control. Make sure that you have all your story bank built and it's sufficiently clear and recent in your memory, and you can deliver these stories during the interview. And otherwise, you just have to let the chips fall where they may, and don't psych yourself too much about how Amazon reacts to your stories, because it's just completely unpredictable. Okay, let's keep going. So, right, interesting. Okay, so this one is from Augusto. Hi, you guys, great. Thanks for making everything clear and simple. Now, please bear with me for I have several questions. Okay. A few weeks ago, I interviewed the hiring manager. I did not make it to forward. Okay, you didn't make it. I applied for a different job and got emailed by the recruiter and spoke over the phone with the hiring manager, and now going to loop. Okay, cool. Do you think they saw notes from the previous interview? So they might have seen the outcomes. They might have seen outcomes from your previous interviews, but I don't believe anyone other than the hiring manager and the bar raiser would actually see the notes from your previous interviews. Now, just so that you know, you failed a phone screen with the hiring manager. Depending on your geography, I'll tell you a little story. So I was recruiting for a role in my team for talent that was based out of Luxembourg, and Luxembourg has a very strange job market in the way that it's such a small place where there's a whole bunch of financial services organizations, and then there's Amazon in its own right. And I think there's Perfetti, which is like a candy maker. But at some point in time, it appeared to me, when folks were applying to my roles, it appeared to me that everyone has applied to Amazon before, and everyone, like everyone, has had experiences where they were rejected at a phone screen stage because, well, for various different reasons, like they were phone screens but ended up not being a good fit for the role. So phone screens are like, failing phone screens is not a big deal. And many candidates, like if you are if your role profile is something that is like has a broad relevance to Amazon, and you apply a few times, like from a hiring manager perspective, and I'm just letting you kind of my perspective here as someone who used to hire and who used to see many applicants with failed phone screens, it wasn't a thing for me, because in most cases I saw folks failing phone screens because they were screened, but the hiring manager decided that they're not a good fit for the role, for that particular role. It's nothing to do with your overall eligibility for Amazon. There are no sort of block lists of any sort, so don't worry about it. Just they'll probably have access to the outcome, and the hiring manager and the bar raiser might be able to look up what happened in that interview, but that's normal, so don't worry about it. Okay, so now we have more from Upal. If I'm unable to condense and focus on my narrative but can demonstrate the impact evidence on the LPs, how will the interviewers evaluate me? Sorry guys, call, just gonna mute it. Right. So if you're unable to condense and focus on your narrative, but you can demonstrate the impact evidence on the LPs, how will the interviewers evaluate me? It's a bit I think you've got a clarification here. I'm trying to understand what Amazonians look for in a candidate. If I can take the time to explain the context in the situation. It's a bit of vague of a question, but let me try to reinterpret it. So it seems like you're concerned if whether your narrative might be too long for Amazon. So look, fundamentally, Amazon, and this is very important, Amazon isn't interviewing you to evaluate your interviewing skills. They're interviewing you to try to understand if you are a functional fit to the job, if you're a cultural fit to Amazon, and if you're senior enough for the job. To be honest, in doing so, they're not trying to do anything crazy, right? Or anything that other companies would not be doing. They just have, on average, a lot more structure and rigor in how they're trying to do this. So everything that you share during your interview, they treat as evidence, right? Evidence that either on the functional side, you've got what it takes to do the job, or on the cultural side, you operate like an Amazonian, meaning you exhibit behaviors that map to their core competencies, which are the 16 leadership principles. By definition, the whole idea, the whole way for you to demonstrate whether you can act at work in a professional situations like an Amazonian, and whether in doing so you can drive tangible impact, tangible and positive impact on your team, on your organization, on your business, on your customers, on your colleagues, has to be done through the details that you divulge during your interview. The official guidance that Amazon gives everyone is that you can take up to 4 minutes to tell your story. The story that is the response to the behavioral interview question. Our guidance is that you can go even further. We say you can go all the way to 5 minutes for an L5, 6 minutes for an L6, 7 minutes for an L7, and upwards. Because the more senior the role that you're applying for is, and the more senior your profile is, likely the more complex the problems will be that you will be solving in the stories that you share, and the more time you need to land those details. So don't worry about not being, I guess, the length of your story being too long. Give yourself those ballpark timings, and then within those, it's more or less okay, right? And do take the opportunity, do take the time to explain the context of the situation, because remember, when they interview you, they're not in your mind. They are not reading your mind. They have to be able to understand your behaviors, your contributions, and then the scale, the scope of your role, and the impact of your results purely and entirely based on what you tell them. If you fail to explain the context, and if the context is unfamiliar to your interviewers, the effect that it produces is that your interviewer will be stuck at the time when you shared something that they have no idea what you're talking about, and you'll be already gone explaining something else, but your interviewer is unable to process anything that you're talking about. So don't worry about it. Okay, there's more from Augusto. Will the loop be easier? Do they want to hire me at this point? I'm not sure what the question is. Whether the loop will be easier than what? Easier than the phone screen? No, the loop is, well, the loop and the phone screen. They're neither easier nor more difficult. It's just a matter of loop tends to be more organized in terms of the kinds of questions that they can throw at you. So, for example, for non-technical roles, they tend to ask you any of the functional questions during the phone screen, and then when it goes to the loop for non-technical roles, it tends to be 100% behavioral. So it is a bit more predictable. than the phone screen. But also, Loop is obviously a panel style interview, so you have to go back to backs, and whether you want to have them all in one day or whether you want to have them split across multiple days, it's still an intense interviewing experience. But otherwise, if I were you, I wouldn't necessarily be anticipating that something will be considerably more difficult than the phone screen. At the end of the day, these interviews tend to be quite similar. Once you are in the middle of your loop, you then all the next interviews they actually become quite familiar. Then the next question is, can I repeat the two interviews I used? You mean the stories that you used in the first interview? I did not pass. That is an interesting question. That is an interesting question. It really depends on why you did not pass that interview. It really depends. Because if you didn't pass that interview purely due to the behavioral side, then I would be thinking, yeah, you probably want to have something else. So it's very difficult to advise because we don't know. Maybe you didn't pass because there was because of the lack of the functional fit. That's also possible. But we don't know. If Amazon gave you some feedback, feel free to repost this question and provide it as an additional input, and we can have a look. But without actually knowing why you didn't pass, it's difficult to tell. If you want to err on the side of caution, then obviously I would say see if you can get better stories. Better stories, bigger problems, more complex problems, bigger results, more impact. If you have them. If you don't have them, then I would say stick to those that you had. The matter the interviewer in the second time mentioned 5 LPs. Should I assume it's the LP for the role? You should, although again, it's hard for me to understand, Augusto, from your questions. Like what, how many interviews you're having? Because let's say if it's an L6 role, typically you're going to have 5 interviews. Out of those 5 interviews, there will be 2 leadership principles per interview that they will be testing. So it's 10 LPs in total. Now, if they told you, let's say if that's your scenario and they gave you 5, then I will assume that they gave you the critical ones, but also you have the other ones that are important and will be part of your loop, but they're not critical. So if I were you, I would try and first understand what is the level of the role that you're interviewing for. If it's an L6, then typically it's 10 leadership, it's 10 LPs that they will be interviewing you on. Then if they gave you 5, that's great. So you need to find out what the other 5 are. And the way to do that is to either scan the job description and try and tease out the keywords from that job description, because they're going to be giving away what leadership principles are important for the role. Or Gigi runs a service where she can do this for you for a very reasonable price. Okay, let's keep going. Can you share any pointers on salary negotiation process? So we have a whole course on that, Marine. I can share some top level pointers. So top level pointers. Your negotiation on actually even further than that. So Amazon negotiates. Amazon will negotiate with you. They will negotiate in good faith. As long as you negotiate in good faith, Amazon will do the same. No amount of good faith negotiation will terminate your offer. In other words, don't be afraid that because you dare to ask for more money, Amazon will pull the offer. That's never happened. The worst that will happen is they, at some point in time, will tell you this is our last and final offer, and that's it. This is a take it or leave it situation. So they will negotiate. The second thing is the core mindset or core idea of negotiating with Amazon is to have done the research about the compensation ranges for your role, being able to benchmark the offer that they're giving you, and having an idea of what number you want, and then employing clever negotiation techniques. You can always provide, if they're asking you for a number, you can always provide an ambitious number. But if your number will be a bit too ambitious, they will just tell you that this is outside of the range for the role, and this is your bracket, because it's incredibly rare that they will go above the range for the role level, the combination of the role, the location, the level of the role, and the functional job family. So essentially, the process of negotiation is, if they ask you up front, what do you want? What are your compensation expectations? You can go a bit ambitious, but it needs to be based on the research that you've done about what compensation ranges Amazon offers for these roles in that location. Then at an offer stage, the trick is to justify the number that you want. And anything that makes this role less attractive to you, as in any facts that reduce the urgency on your side to take that role and increase the urgency on the Amazon side to fight for the compensation for this role, these are really good factors. So you do need to argue with facts. But otherwise, Amazon will negotiate with you. And plenty of our clients have negotiated their Amazon offers successfully. Right. Let's keep going. Right, folks. Before we go any further, I have a request for you, folks. So Gigi and I, we've spent hundreds, literally hundreds of hours to put together the content on the YouTube, the content on the blog, so that you guys have the best in class Amazon interview prep advice. And I hope you guys will all agree that what you're getting here is the best that there is. All we're asking as a favor is to help us spread our content on YouTube wider. As I've mentioned in the beginning, the way that YouTube got in, the way that Gigi got into this business is she was getting people interviewing and bombing interviews because they consumed rubbish on YouTube from the so-called quote unquote coaches who are leading people into the wrong direction. So by liking this video, by subscribing to this channel, and by leaving comments underneath this live stream, you're sending a signal to YouTube to serve it to more people. So I believe the ratio was 1 like equals 10 more views. I don't know if this still holds, but what I'm gonna do is, folks, I'm going to play you a little entertainment video which Gigi has created. You really want to see this. It's 14 seconds, right? I'm gonna play this video to you. While I'm playing this video, I need you to go and like this video and subscribe to this channel. I can see how many of you guys are watching, and I can see how many likes I'm getting. So it would be great if all of you do this. 14 seconds, and then we're back, and I'm gonna be taking all of your questions until the end of the hour. Now, the only thing is this particular video, it's a bit loud. So if you're wearing your headphones, maybe decrease the volume or just pop them off a little bit. Otherwise, here we go.
Live to stream. Live to stream. Live to stream.
There we go, folks. that was not painful, right? That was actually quite entertaining. Right. Okay. Well, I'm hoping you guys have all given us a like, yeah, and subscribe to this channel so we can continue. All right. This one is from Sabrina. Hello. I have been I've given an interview for a trainee position on 20th of March. They told me I will get an update within 1 week, but I didn't get an update. Is this normal? Thank you. Yeah, so 1 week is 1 week's a bit long, I would say. I mean, 1 week is typically standard. Now, for a standard loop, 1 week is indeed the standard that they're trying to nail. If the process is somehow different for trainee positions, it might be different. But I would say a week is a reasonable amount of time for you to expect to actually get a response on your interview. So I would say this is a good time for you to follow up with them, and feel free to follow up with your recruiter, with your sourcer, whoever is looking after you on the Amazon side. Just be polite. You can follow up every 4 to 5 days until you get a response. If you don't get a response, you can follow up with someone else on LinkedIn. Just find someone and explain the situation. But following up, unfortunately, right now is the only thing that you can do. All right, next one. Assuming I get interviewed for an AWS Cloud Solution Architect role, can I use non-cloud examples during the behavioral round? Yes, you can. You can. All I would say is make sure that your examples are recent. So during the last 5 years, to make sure that the seniority is in the right ballpark. You can pick non-cloud examples if the behaviors that they're demonstrating really map well to the leadership principles that they're testing, and you're really shining, and the impact is quite pronounced. You can. Behavioral interviews, they are it's a cultural fit interview fundamentally. Now, just let's apply some common sense, like very, very basic common sense here. Like obviously, if you have examples that demonstrate both your functional fit to the role and your cultural fit to Amazon, and you have some of those examples, Amazon will never say no. And I would always prioritize those, because these are your, not just gold, these are your platinum examples. But if you're trying to almost compare one example that has a really good cultural fit, meaning LP fit to the question, but it's from a different functional field, maybe before you got yourselves into cloud technologies, and then you have someone that has a good functional fit, but in terms of the fitness for behavioral for the 16 leadership principles, it's not there. Always pick the example that has a better cultural fit than functional during a behavioral interview. Okay, let's keep going. Hi, thanks for having a live session. If you could please, I'm aware the bar raisers round is to hire employees that are better than 50% of their current houses being evaluated. It's a judgment call. So first things first, it's not just the bar raiser that is tasked and is told by Amazon to raise the bar. If you look at Amazon's leadership principle called hire and develop the best, you will see that leadership principle imposes the requirement to raise the bar with every new hire and every promotion to every to anyone who ever interviews or hires at Amazon. So every single interviewer, whether they're just an interviewer, a hiring manager, or a bar raiser, they're going to have this in mind. Is what I am getting from the candidate, is it better than half of L5s, L6s, who I know doing the same job. Now, it's a judgment call, and it's not an exact science. Science, that's true. But then you have a lot of people interviewing you, and the hiring manager and the bar raiser, at the end of the day, they have to agree that a candidate raises the bar in order to bring them in. So that's how Amazon compensates for the fact that it is a judgment call. Right, let's keep going. Does the phone screen interview performance have an impact on the final hiring decision? In 99.9% of cases, no. The decision is being made based on the evidence that's been evaluated on the back of your loop interview. In very, very, very rare cases when the loop is split and on the cusp, there is then they will go back to your phone interview. But in my experience, it's been pretty rare. It's mostly the loop. Okay, another question. Is there a possibility to ask the same LP question at the subsequent loop rounds? My understanding is 2 LPs per loop. It is 2 LPs per loop. And the questions, so LPs per loop, and those LPs will be distributed. They will not be overlapping, and so the questions also will not be overlapping. With the exception for there are some questions under different leadership principles that sound very similar, but the LPs will not overlap. Where there will be an overlap is between the LPs that they will be testing during the loop and the LPs that they would have tested during the phone screen. There will be an overlap. That's obviously guaranteed. You should expect that and just have fresh content for the same leadership principle for your loop. But otherwise, your understanding is correct. Can I repeat the LPs from screen to the? Can you repeat the answers? Right, the stories, not the LPs, the answers. The stories from the phone screen to the interview loop. Yes, but only if your interviewer is okay with it. So ask the interviewer, hey, so I've been asked the same question during my phone screen, and unless you suggest otherwise, I will. I'm going to share the same stories with you. Let me know if that's okay with you or not. But in case that's not okay with the interviewer, I would recommend that you have fresh content for the loop. Let's keep going. So I've got an offer for a cloud support associate. Yeah, okay, great. Starting in July, but background verification hasn't yet started. Okay. Is there still a chance Amazon might withdraw the offer? Right. We've seen these offer withdrawals very, very rarely. And this was happening during the mass layoffs season in 2022. We've seen all sorts of situations. If it's business as usual, there shouldn't be, that shouldn't happen. But I cannot categorically tell you that this is not going to happen. And I understand why you're worried. Your best bet is to write to your recruiter, to your hiring manager, to anyone who was there who I would say recruiter and hiring manager are your best points of contact. Just write to them and say that so that you know I'm super excited to be joining this team. Cannot wait. Just conscious that the background check hasn't started. Is there anything that I can do to facilitate the process? Should I be worried? That's what I would do. What's the worst that will happen? They're gonna tell you, sorry, we can't share this information or something like that. All right, folks, I've got 2 more questions here, so keep those questions coming. I will stay here until the very end of all the questions. Let's keep going. So more from Augusta. The rec for this AM for ads, which I'm assuming is L6. I've done all her reach out by email. Is that weird? I have no idea what you've just written, Augusto. Can you just try and compose a normal sentence. Sorry, I can't understand what you mean here. All right, let's keep going. I finished my interview, got a job offer in January. Still waiting for the background verification. Yes, I understand. Your job starts in July. I get it. Does background verification take this much long to start? Look, I am. I can't tell you. I don't. I've. It's not a piece of data that you would even know if you're a hiring manager. Like you wouldn't. You just don't see these things. As far as when you're a hiring manager, you make an offer to someone. No, in fact, it's not even you who's making an offer. It's your recruiter who's making the offer. And then let's say the offer is settled. The rest is literally there are other teams that take over. Your recruiter literally runs points. As a hiring manager, you don't even know how long different stages last. You're typically the background check is the last thing that you would be concerned. If you're hiring someone from abroad, then what you're mostly concerned is their how long is it gonna take them to to get their visa, and are there gonna be any holdups there? But otherwise, it seems to me that it's unusually long for the verification, for the background check to start, but there might be good reasons for that. And so in this case, maybe it isn't long. We don't know. You need to write to the recruiter and ask them, reiterate that you cannot wait to join this role. Reiterate to them that you're super excited. Offer to facilitate anything that they need to get the process started. Mention that you might be worried, but there is no downside to writing to them. Right, folks. So I can't see any more questions. So I'm gonna start giving you freebies right now. So make sure you stay until I give you all the freebies. These freebies are epic. So here is the URL right here: www.dayonecareers.freestuff. Right. What are we giving you, folks? So in addition to this amazing free YouTube channel, we also have more freebies for you. If you go to this URL, you're going to get 3 freebies. Freebie number 1, we've got you an entire course, preparation course on customer obsession. Customer obsession is the most popular leadership principle as far as interviews are going. It would be impossible to imagine a single interview happening without customer obsession being tested. So we've got a course for you there, which we're giving you for free, that will teach you absolutely everything you need to know about how to answer questions on customer obsession. And guess what? In our paid courses, the Amazon Interview Success System and the ultimate version of the same course, we've got all 16 of them on every single leadership principle. What we're giving you one for free, and that is the most important one. So go get it and start your preparation strong. The second freebie is we're giving you access to a free community. So we have a community of candidates, which you will get access to as soon as you get that freebie. And inside this community, you can link up with other candidates. We have an Interview Buddies channel, and you can link up for practice. So the standard practice, and something that we recommend, is get yourself a scheduling tool. We all use the free tool that's called cal.com. It's amazing. So get yourself an account with Cal or anything else that you have. Calendly, doesn't really matter. And designate some slots where you would want people to book themselves in for interview practice, and practice. You don't have to practice with us. If you don't book any personal coaching sessions with us, just practice with anyone. Practice with fellow candidates, with friends and family, with Amazonians who you know. But if you don't know anyone, then Interview Buddy channel throughout in our community is a great resource. Also, inside our community, we have a question and answer channel where a custom trained GPT will be answering all your questions about Amazon interviews based on the content of this YouTube channel. So we've trained it, we called it Andy for no reason whatsoever. And as you're preparing, you can put your questions across to Andy and Andy will answer them. Then the last thing that you're going to get, and this is also a really cool freebie, and this is, I think, might be the most important freebie that we will give you. It is called Amazon Interview Tool Pack. And it's a PDF, it's a downloadable PDF. You get it from our community. So once you get into our community platform, there's a section there called courses, and you get all the free courses in there. And one of those is the Amazon Interview Tool Pack. Inside that tool pack, we have over 90 Amazon interview questions that we came up with. These aren't the official ones because the official ones are confidential. We don't have them. And even if we did have them, we would not be allowed to share them with you. But because we've spent ages at Amazon interviewing people and we've coached hundreds of people since we left, we can make up these questions on the fly. And so that's exactly what we've done. So grab that PDF and use those questions to interview each other, to link up with other people in the Interview Buddies channel and interview each other. All right. So I think we've set you up, guys, for the best interview prep that's possible. Give us a like, subscribe to our channel, and if you don't have any interviews this week, we're going to see you next week. But if you're interviewing this week, good luck. We're going to be keeping our fingers crossed for you guys. Go on, smash it, get those jobs, and then hopefully, maybe for some of you, we'll see you inside our community. Take care, folks. Bye-bye.